Hey, we're here with Kara Tanaka here at Hallwalls, talking about her exhibition opening tomorrow night, Pining Wind. And I wanted to start here because I was saying, after we put this drawing up, that it wasn't as funny on the floor, but it's really funny on the wall.
Yeah.
And I presume that was intentional, the kind of absurdity of the figures along the bottom edge of the paper.
When you think of all the things that are possible in space, gravity tends not to be one of them, unless you're near, I guess, a planetary body. So to have them all sort of malfunctioning, I guess, in space is the realization that the illusion of where they are is not actually.
I mean, maybe we should step back and talk about what Pining Wind refers to, so that'll underscore the absurdity of it. You know, as I've come to know your work a little bit, it seems to me there's often a theme of transformation, or even pining, longing.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily specific to something, but maybe just a general emotive kind of quality. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's a lot of, I think maybe longing and desire is the sort of root of where all of our emotions come from. So it is something I've sort of made the through line of my work.
And yet, you know, in the work that I've seen of yours, longing and desire seem also attached to technology, to tools, to apparatuses. You know, here we have, you know, pseudo-religious icons, monks, but they're also astronauts. And as we move over here, of course, we have a communications satellite.
It is, yes. Transmitting a signal to ourselves, actually.
So why do you think that the technological kind of aspects tie into longing and desire for you?
I guess part of it is that I've been looking at what consciousness might be in the 21st century. And scientists have been predicting sort of this incredible sort of speeding up of how technology is going to play into our lives, and sort of what the ability of the computer will be in 50 years, you know, about 25, 50 years. And so with this, it's looking at sort of how we can use the technologies that are becoming available to understand what we are today and what sort of our function is.
You know, and the interesting thing to me is that the human, or you know, the human end of it, the emotional end of it, the desirous, ambiguous element to it, never concedes to the technological in your work. It seems wedded to the technological.
It is. I think both of them will grow at the same time. Our sort of understanding of ourselves and our understanding of what technology actually is. I mean, it's great to see all these paradigm shifts that are happening as one tool becomes the next. The iPhone just came out this summer, and already it's sort of transforming what we're capable of doing while we're walking around. And yeah, it's kind of amazing. I'm really excited for the future.
Well, that optimism kind of comes through in the work, because the works are really beautiful and bright, and they don't suggest a desultory future. They suggest an optimistic future.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't see how the future could be worse for us. I feel like it's only going to get better. So, especially, well, with the drawing to incorporate sort of obvious Buddhist form, which is the monks' robes, and then with this one to incorporate sort of the stupa, is to collapse sort of Buddhism and space technology as we know it. Although this piece is sort of rooted, obviously, in Sputnik. So it's just meant to stay with us, a satellite in the Earth's orbit.
Now, let's talk about the film that's on the inside of the piece a little. One of the things I really love about the film is that it's actually, and because I love this when this is done, that it's basically a film of still images.
Yeah.
Which, you know, is, you know, bringing your drawing practice into another arena. But tell me a little bit about how that film, did the film start as a series of sketches and you decided, well, this would be nice as a film piece?
I did actually start with drawings, and it was just a small sequence which has become part of this film. But there's one scene where the two ambiguous figures jump off the moon, and they sort of commit this lover suicide tied to each other. And so originally it started there, but then in looking at this no drama of Matsukaze, which is Pining Wind, I sort of started thinking this is actually the story of our human nature. And so to think about it in terms of memory over something like 1,300 years, I wanted to come back in waves like you do remember. You only remember parts of things, and that becomes sort of your narrative. So the film stills sort of made more sense for this.
So do you think that we are perpetually existing within a pining wind?
I think it's a good part of our identity.
That we're always pining for something?
Something, yes. Desire sort of is. It's It's funny. It's very Buddhist in a way.
Connection, intimacy.
Yeah, this human relationship with each other.
Now, what's interesting, another thing that's interesting to me about the film is that over certainly the last decade, video projection, sort of the bigger gargantuan, all-encompassing kind of sensation has sort of quickly become the norm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Almost to the point where it's ordinary, and yet you've gone quite the other way and made it about as small as you can make it. And also, I think what's really fascinating is just having it, in this distance and behind the glass, just distorts it that little bit, which I'm presuming has something to do with the transmission, the quality of the transmission, but it also kind of creates an interesting space in terms of all those negotiated ideas of desire and longing and pining that, it is kind of unfocused or it's, you want it to focus, but it's not quite there.
Yeah, I mean, everything's become, home theater has become sort of a new thing this year. I mean, all technologies, all, what do we call it? Television channels are going to be digital by the end of the year. Everyone has giant flat screen TVs in their home, so I wanted to work backwards a little bit in using minimal technology, and actually the lens is sort of a cast-off part left over from actually scientific experiments, and JPL is right next to LA, and so they're sort of leftover remnants I wanted to use in this sort of 60s, 2008 rendition of how we are understanding ourselves. I mean, scientific technology has changed so much since this was probably invented. So, yeah. And then the series of there's a series of 5 lenses inside that sort of compact and expand the image into a place where it's sort of a little bit mysterious, I guess.
I mean, and in the effort of full disclosure, we should say that the film is playing on an iPod.
It is.
So it's actually playing, there is a combination of old school, new school going on. Let's talk about the material quality of your work for a second. Tell me, first of all, the one thing, you mentioned Sputnik, yet at the same time there's a quality about the pieces you've done that it's not like you're trying to hold true to a particular technical accuracy.
Right.
There's always this sort of imaginative layer. Would that be accurate?
I think that's pretty fair.
I mean, it's sort of generally alluding, but otherwise it's its own thing.
Yeah, and one of the things I noticed when I was looking through the last 40 years of things we sent into space, it just seems that they're very functional, but there's no excluding the functional and also the aesthetically pleasing. So I wanted to bring that in, like things going to space can be these amazing sort of specimens of what we are doing here. So to combine sort of elements of architecture and space technology, just to compound sort of what is the fruit of our labors here.
But most space hardware actually usually has like rocket ships have the American flag and it says USA. There's usually some markings. Yours are specifically devoid of any markings. So is that to suggest that we don't know where this originated, perhaps?
It's maybe not originating, but so that we don't know. It's actually intended so sort of universal. So it's coming from here, but it's not. I can't claim it. I wouldn't want to claim it for our country. It's not an example of American space travel or anything. So,
right.
Yeah, sort of to claim it for everyone and no one at the same time.
Well, describe to us a little bit about how this is made. Like, what parts did you fabricate yourself? What's it made out of?
Well, the hemispheres are steel, which I wanted to stay pretty close to Sputnik's original sizes. So it's the same size base. And then this part is wood, and the same with the spire on top. And everything is finished. I guess this is what I wanted to keep, was the sort of pristine finish of a space object before it gets launched. The rest is steel. The armatures are all steel, sort of as utilitarian. And
Now this looks like a leftover from something. What's it from?
that's a mystery too.
That's a mystery
It's
too?
a mystery, but it's definitely.
There's a serial number on it. I could look it up.
We could look it up and find out what it is.
Oh, you don't know?
I don't know.
It's just a part you found.
Yeah, just a remnant cast off.
It's nice that it actually has a serial number on it.
It's the one bit of identification.
And so this is sized close to what Sputnik was sized as, which is kind of nice, yeah.
And a similar working apparatus is how they, when they were building it, how they held it up.
Now, even though it's not here, I want to talk just for a sec about a piece called Crushed by the Hammer of the Sun, which is in the California Biennial right now at the Orange County Museum in Los Angeles. I want to chat about it because it again has this sort of transformational quality about it. Almost, I think of this when I think of the monks too. It's almost like a shamanistic object,
An incantation,
right?
yes.
Because it's like its own little whirling dervish or Tasmanian devil. And it also is really interesting to me that formally, in general terms, it's not a dissimilar shape from this, which is also not a dissimilar shape from the dissolver piece. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they do take similar forms, but for Crushed by the Hammer of the Sun, well, Pining Wind and Dissolver, which is my first spaceship, proper, both of those are based on Buddhist histories, and so the way the sage has operated in the history of Buddhism. And then Crushed by the Hammer of the Sun takes a look at the Sunni sect of whirling dervishes, and so sort of the transformation that's taken over the last 800 years, I guess, that's how long Rumi's been around for. But that form, thinking about, one of the things I'm really interested in is how transcendence functions and how we are able to account for what happens in a moment of transcendence and sort of the altering between the most beautiful experience we might have and the most horrific experience. And so Crushed by the Hammer of the Sun does this sort of meditative dance and then explodes into almost a mushroom-shaped cloud, which would be sort of the moment of exiting the body, because traditionally whirling dervishes are able to sort of transcend the body and sort of live in a liminal space for, 10 minutes or so. So that's one of the places where we can get to the unknown while still being here.
So I guess I have to ask you, have you ever entered a liminal space yourself?
I don't think so.
Or this is something that maybe you aspire to at some point?
I would love to go to the unknown sometime, whether it's through space or through some sort of experience here.
Well, what do you have coming up after this, Kara?
Actually, I'm doing a residency for the biennial right now, so I'm working on a research project with a few people from sort of the community down there, and we're just looking at Buddhist structures and sort of how we're able to transform them.
Great.
So,
Well, it's wonderful to have you here.
it's so good to be here.
Thank you for coming to Hallwalls and
Thank you.
bringing us your work.
It's actually, I was so happy when I got here because together with Jesse's work, I think everything makes a lot of sense together. It's
Great.
a good conversation, so.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.